All right, good morning, everyone. Had a drop off here at the airport, so I thought I'd go ahead and just do another video going through Wisdom from the Bible, Daily Thoughts from the Proverbs. So we are on September 10th. It is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be meddling. Chapter 20, verse 3. She wished she could be like her husband. Nothing ever seemed to get to him. He took everything in stride, and he acted as though he hadn't a care in the world. She, on the other hand, worried about everything. She was positive that if there was something that could possibly go wrong, it would. She didn't mean to be negative, but she couldn't help it. She wanted to be able to let go of her doubts and fears, but so far she hadn't been able to. It's sometimes hard to realize that God gave us life as a gift. Many times it feels like such a burden. God never wants us to suffer unnecessarily. Part of the message that Christ brought to this world was that no one had to face problems alone. God is with us always. Another part of his message was that nothing on this earth is important other than our relationship to God and to our neighbor. Job, finances, illness, and a hundred other things create stress in our lives, but when compared with the bigger picture of eternal life, they are totally insignificant. As Christians, we need to learn to look at the world through eternity eyes rather than temporal eyes. Our home is in heaven, and everything that happens to us now means nothing, so long as we have our relationships in order. Lord, I get sidetracked so easily. I let the silliest things bring me down. Help me to see everything in its proper perspective. Grant me peace of mind which never ends. September 11th. The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing. Chapter 20, verse 4. There is a famous children's story about a little red hen who searched for other barnyard residents to help her bake bread. No matter where she went, all the other animals had some reason why they couldn't pitch in and help. Finally, she decided to bake the bread by herself, and soon the entire barnyard was filled with the enticing aroma of her coop-baked bread. When the other animals smelled the fine bread, they flocked around the chicken coop with their mouths watering. The hen pecked her head out and announced, "Everyone who helped make the bread gets a big slice with butter." Whereupon she proceeded to eat hers in front of a group of regretful loafers. That's funny. How sorry a day it will be when we are called to stand before the judgment throne of God if we have not chosen to follow his commandments. He has asked us to do what we know we should, and often we disobey, not through an evil spirit, but because of laziness. Just as the animals in the story, though we can hope to receive no more than we were willing to give in this life. If we give nothing, then nothing will we receive. If we give much, our Father in heaven will heap an unending supply of good things upon us. When a call comes for obedience or service, let me be the first to raise my hand to volunteer, O Lord. I do not want to be left outside in the last days. Welcome me into your holy presence, Father. September 12th. A king that sitteth in the throne of judgment scattereth away all evil with his eyes. Chapter 20, verse 8. In a certain mythical kingdom, the throne room of the castle was exposed so that all the subjects could see their king. He would rule from his elevated throne, and nothing happened in the kingdom which escaped his notice. Whenever a misdeed was committed, he would summon the perpetrator and have him brought to the throne. There, in front of all his subjects, he would give sentencing. He was always fair and just, and people learned to respect his decree. They felt protected under his watchful gaze, and the evildoers found no comfort in his land. In time, the evil fled the city, and only the good remained, to be watched and cared for by the wise king. We are subjects to a king who watches everything we do. He sees us at our best and at our worst, and he is fair with us in his judgment and commands. We have nothing to fear from our king so long as we obey his rules. In the end, we will all stand before his throne, and he will allow us a place in his kingdom, or he will have us removed. The choice is ours, but it is good to remember that nothing we do escapes his careful gaze. He sees the good and is pleased, and he sees the evil which he scatters with his eyes. I thank you that I am never out of your sight. I apologize for the things I do which are not pleasing to you, and I ask your forgiveness. Let me know when I please you, Lord, that I might always walk in those ways. September 13th. Diverse weights and diverse measures, both of them are like abomination to the Lord. Chapter 20, verse 10. She stormed into the classroom with her paper clenched in her fist. She marched up to the professor's desk and tossed her paper in front of him. A C+ was scrawled across the head of the paper. Why was I given this grade? This is a good paper. Good for anyone else maybe, but not for you. You put forth average effort and you got an average grade. That's not fair. My paper is better than most in the class, but a lot of people got A's. Look, I can give you any grade I please. I think you can do better, so I gave you a C+. That's it. I'll fight it. It's not fair for you to judge some people one way and other people differently. It is frustrating to feel like we are being taken advantage of. When we deal with other people, we like to think that we will be treated fairly. By the same token, we should be very careful in our dealings with people to be sure that we always treat them fairly. God looks kindly on his children who deal with equality and fairness. Partiality is an abomination in the sight of the Lord. We must always strive to do what we know is right. Lord, let me look upon every person I meet as an equal. Help me to remember to treat them as I would like to have them treat me. Guard that I do nothing to offend or cause suffering. September 14th. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure or whether it be right. Chapter 20, verse 11. The class was a mixture. Half the children sat quietly, paying attention and doing the work they were asked to do. The other half ran wild. They were noisy and uncooperative, and it was a battle to get them to pay any attention at all. They refused to stay in their seats, and if you turned your back on one of them, they were out the door, causing a disturbance in another classroom. None of the children were really bad kids, but some of them had not learned any manners or self-control. Their misbehavior made it terribly difficult to watch the children who were cooperative and willing to learn. Even with children, it is easy to tell what they are like by the things they do. We should not always judge a person by their actions, but it is true that a person gives forth that which is inside. If we are nice, kind, gentle people, our actions will reflect that. If in turmoil we have anger or jealousy or lust inside, then our actions will most likely reflect that too. That is why it is so important to put Jesus in control of our lives and to spend time with him daily. With him in command, we are assured of living a life which is an honor to God. People watch the way we live. When we live our lives right, it proves to people that God has the power to change lives. O Lord, make me new. Take the storms which rage in my heart and calm them with a single word. From the peace which you alone can give, help me to spread it to everyone I meet. September 15th. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made even both of them. Chapter 20, verse 12. He stood looking on in awe. His son, his firstborn, was coming into the world, and he was a part of it. He stood by his wife's head, and together they shared the wonder of the experience. They had often doubted whether God existed, but now all of his doubts were gone. He looked on at the perfect little creation. Each finger and toe was a testament to God's loving existence. The miracle of life was overwhelming. It was inconceivable that something like this could happen by chance. Only a master artist of incomprehensible power and glory could come up with something so fine as a human life. When we look at God's creation, it is difficult to question anything about him. There is so much to wonder at in the world. As we learn more and more, it should not make us skeptical of God. Quite the contrary. It should convince us that there is a grand author to all creation, and that his power is far beyond our wildest imagination. Only a foolish person would deny God's existence in the face of such remarkable evidence. To see God, all we must do is open our eyes and look around. His signature is on each one of his creations. He is right there for the person who has eyes to see and ears to hear. God is all around us. O Lord, you are indeed everywhere. I look to the sky, and your beauty and wonder meets my eye. I look around, and I see you in the faces of those I meet. I look inward, and thankfully I see you in my heart. And then the last one for this video, September 16th. Bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterward his mouth shall be filled with gravel. Chapter 20, verse 17. His boss had told him that he had to make contact with all 12 of the outlet stores. He struggled through 10, then decided he had had enough. He never did get back to the other 2, but when his boss asked him, he said he completely finished. All went well until his boss asked him for detailed reports on all 12 of the outlets. He had no idea what he could say about the 2 outlets, and he didn't have time to get to them before the reports were due. He falsified the reports he turned in, but afterwards he felt uneasy. He continually wondered if his boss knew what he had done, and it put unusual pressure on their relationship. When we live a lie, it takes control of us, and it usually leads to more lies. We get caught in a tangled web, and we are continually afraid that we might be discovered. It takes so much more energy to tell a lie than it does to tell the truth. We may not like the consequences of telling the truth all the time, but it is much better than facing the consequences of being caught in a lie. Our God is the God of truth, and those who live in lies will have no part in him. The truth is a much bigger companion, and it will lead us straight to the gates of heaven. I gain nothing through deception and lies. Lead me in the paths of truth and righteousness. Help me to see that a single grain of truth is preferable to a mountain of lies. Teach me your ways, O Lord. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end it there, and I will just see you guys in the next video. Take care, and God bless.